Welcome to the Chaos Whispers of Healthcare, the podcast for busy healthcare leaders who are ready to get out of survival mode so they can focus on what matters most. This is where the burnout stops and the real talk starts. I'm your host, Dr. Megan Carter, and each week I sit down with healthcare innovators who get it. We will unpack the chaos, laugh through the hard stuff, and get you at least 2 practical tips you can use at work right away. If you're ready to clear the chaos and lead with impact, you've come to the right place. Let's jump in. Dear busy healthcare leader, I am so excited to welcome you to season 3 of this podcast. If you are a U.S. healthcare leader right now and you are experiencing a triple booked calendar, feeling like you don't have enough time to really engage with your teams, or maybe you're someone who is literally drowning in meetings and another process improvement project, and you're desperately trying to keep both your people and your metrics moving, this season is absolutely for you. I cannot wait for you to hear from our guests this season. We are going to be having some very real conversations about what it's like to be a healthcare leader today. And we're not sugarcoating anything. We are having some real talk about pain points that you face every day and that I faced every day as a manager, a director, and a hospital exec. This episode in particular is really for me when I was a young nurse manager. And she is who I keep thinking about over and over again when I'm trying to figure out, how do I refine some of these episodes? How do we refine our services to really help that lost, scared, frustrated, exhausted leader in the moment with really practical tools? Not with theory, not with anything fancy, just literal practical tools. I need to tell you about a new update that we have to the Chaos Whisper movement, and I'm so excited about it. But before I get into that, I want to just share a little bit about me. If this is your first time listening to the podcast, welcome. I'm so excited that you're here. And I mentioned that this is really for me as a nurse manager back when I was a brand new baby manager. And I remember stepping into that role at the age of 29, thinking, this is going to be so much fun. I cannot wait to advocate for these nurses and these techs. I cannot wait to partner with these incredible physicians and RTs and PTs and just be that advocate that I wished I had as a new nurse. And I remember walking into the job on the first day. Someone mentioned this was their experience as well. I literally got handed keys to my office, a stack of Post-its and some pens, and just was told to go forth and conquer. I didn't have any kind of onboarding. There was no formal structure to transitioning me into this department. So my first instinct was, I'm going to put on scrubs, get elbow to elbow with these nurses and figure out what's important to them, what's their top priority. Within about an hour of that very first shift, it dawned on me that I was in a whole lot deeper than I thought. And this showed up as my calendar was becoming double, triple booked with all these meetings that people wanted me to attend. I was being called and texted about patient safety issues, a workplace violence incident. Oh, by the way, staffing is at crisis tonight. What's our plan? And so on and so forth. And I remember thinking on that first day, okay, deep breath, Megan. Like, other people are doing this job full time. Clearly, they're able to do it and do it well. You can do it well too. It's about you. You need to get stronger. You need to figure out how to do this. And I spent about the first 6 months really, truly believing that I must be weak. I must not be enough, because I couldn't seem to thrive in this role because I felt like I was drowning in this never-ending to-do list, in these meetings that felt circular, that weren't really clear. They weren't really going anywhere. And of course, my staff coming to me, venting and, processing their big emotions. And I remember coming home one day and telling my husband, I don't know if this is the right path for me. And my husband's so patient. If you know anything about him, he's the most patient guy in the world. And he asked me some really great questions. And I realized it was probably more about the approach, the culture, and how we had set up healthcare leaders in general. It may not necessarily just be me. So I started taking a different approach to how I handled that workload, my calendar. And over the years, as I moved into a director role and then in a hospital exec role, even through the pandemic, I really honed in on what worked well for my team and for myself. And that was the birth, even though I didn't realize it at the time, of this chaos whisper movement. And so I want to share this framework and these tools with you, but I don't want to get too into the weeds because I don't want to give away some of the fun that you're going to hear about from our guests. So it turns out that I wasn't the only one that experienced this, which was, realization number one. The more I talked to other managers, other directors, other leaders, they were like, me too. Yeah, it's not just you, it's me. What's funny about that is I didn't know that was even a possibility because we don't talk about it, right? We don't talk about openly how difficult it is. Now, our staff know it's clearly wearing on us. They see how exhausted we are. They see us gain the weight, work the long hours, lose sleep, answer texts at 2 and 3 a.m. So, understandably, right now, if you ask any Gen Z nurse if they want to step into leadership, most of them are going to tell you no. And it's because they see that there's no work life balance, that it's really challenging. So, I think the sense of urgency is really high to figure out how to do healthcare leadership differently because the times have changed and we have got to change with them. Now, based on client feedback and doing this work and trialing and piloting these workshops and these services, I have come to the realization that our movement really rests on 5 pillars. And those are the 5 pillars that you're going to hear about in these episodes. Being a chaos whisperer means that you no longer accept the narrative of exhaustion as a metric for your impact. We say we are not meant to prove our worth through exhaustion. We are meant to ease human suffering. And by the way, healthcare leader, that includes us. We're human too. And it's okay to take care of ourselves in this way. So here are the 5 pillars real quick so you know where we're going this season. First is protected time. Protected time means we're not blindly accepting meeting invites. We are not answering every email and text and off hours with a sense of urgency. We are intentionally protecting our time. The second pillar is balancing workload. I know that sounds crazy. What is a balanced workload? But I promise you it's possible. We've seen it happen. This is where we take everything that's on our to-do list, we brain dump it, we prioritize it, and then we come up with ways to determine what our top priorities really are, what's not. Because you cannot possibly do it all as a finite person with finite energy, right? The third pillar is about holding boundaries. We have a very interesting relationship with boundaries in the US healthcare. And I believe it stems from several things. One, we go into healthcare to help others, right? Certainly not for the pay. It is a calling. We are there to ease human suffering and we want to take care of people. So, number two, we say yes to any request for help because that's who we are. It's what we do, it's why we showed up in this industry. The downside to that, obviously, is we lose our ability to protect our time or to have balanced workloads, to show up as the leader we want to be. And it's having a really negative impact, having no boundaries around that. Fourth, we talk about regulating our nervous system. This is something that we talk about with our patients. You hear about it for leaders in other industries. Healthcare really hasn't fully embraced the power of regulating our nervous system as a leader. Our presence as a leader and our impact is biology before it's behavior. And so we teach a lot of tools around how to ground ourselves. And the fifth pillar is staying connected to meaning and joy in our work. If we're being honest with ourselves, many of us have been in healthcare long enough that it's possible we've lost our way a little bit. Maybe we remember that first day as a new manager where we were excited, we wanted to save the world. And over the years, and God bless the pandemic as well, we've lost that sense of meaning and joy. So we teach that. So those are the 5 pillars that make up the movement. And it's all based on this big idea that we're not meant to prove our worth through exhaustion. Let me tell you about some of our guests that we're going to hear from. So this season, I'm bringing in people who are doing this work at a really high level. You're going to hear from people like Eva Rose Daniel, who talks about how to actually hold attention when you're presenting to busy healthcare teams. She's a professional speaking coach. I've been following her. She's been my coach. She's incredible. So if you're a leader and you have to give updates of any sort, I don't care how small or big the group is, you're going to get so much out of her episode. We are also going to hear from Dr. Brian Sexton, who is the Chief Wellness Officer at Duke. He's going to talk about that lovely phrase of well-being. We have not seemed to crack this nut in healthcare leadership, and he brings a really fresh third-party perspective to this, gives us some really powerful tools, and helps us reframe how we view well-being as a leader. We're going to have Andrea Coyle come in. She's from Joymetrics, their Chief Clinical Officer. She's going to talk about burnout because, let's be honest, we've all experienced it. And so many more guests are coming in this season. Every single episode is short, it's real, and it's going to give you at least 2 practical tips that you can actually use at work right away. Now, I want to give you 2 practical tips in this episode as well. So, number 1, I want to share with you a free tool that you can access, and this helps us with protecting our time. So, it's pillar number 1, and it's called the calendar triage tool. Now, some of you have probably downloaded it if you've made your way into my email list. And we had a very specific tool for this, but it didn't really address the different perspectives. So we now have 2 separate calendar triage tools. You can grab it today. One is from the meeting organizer view, and the triage algorithm walks you through, should this meeting even exist? Are these all the people we should really be bringing into this meeting? The other tool is from the attendee view. We all get meetings requested, and our presence is requested multiple times a day, every day. And most of us have a habit of just accepting it and figuring it out, right? That's why our calendars look like a crazy Sudoku puzzle, right? So, this from the attendee view really asks the questions and objectively evaluates, do I really need to attend this meeting? Am I truly value added? Is this value added to my priority list? And so those are 2 super powerful tools you can use. It also asks questions like, is this mandatory? Is it driving value? What does value mean to me? And then we talk about how to say no. If I need to decline an invite, how do I do that without burning a bridge? I'm super excited about the tool. It came from what I was doing internally and mentally once I made it to the director and ACNO role, and I was able to keep my calendar streamlined. People were asking me how I was doing that. So it started out as just me taking what's inside my head and putting it on paper. But since then, we've refined it, right? So we've traveled the country and we've tested and trialed these tools with lots of healthcare organizations. And so what you have today is the most refined version of it, proven and tested. Highly recommend you grab that. The other tool I want to share with you guys is around grounding our nervous system. And the reason we need to talk more about our nervous system is because in healthcare specifically, we are dealing with traumatic situations every single day. And we know that our nervous system is designed, our sympathetic nervous system is designed to respond to an immediate threat. And then once the threat is resolved, we go back into that parasympathetic mode, right? We go back to rest and digest. Well, healthcare leadership doesn't really give us any of that calm. It doesn't really give us any opportunity to go back to rest and digest mode. And so many of us, especially if we've been in healthcare 10, 20, 30 years, our body hasn't experienced that rest in decades. And so our brain has literally been rewired to be a threat detection center. And it's no wonder we feel like we're running on fumes. And so one of my favorite tools I have for free on my website is resetting your nervous system. There's micro practices and there's some long-term practices in there. My favorite micro practice, if I'm running between meetings and I feel like my sympathetic nervous system is in overdrive, is box breathing. And most everybody understands what box breathing is. If it's new to you, you're inhaling for several seconds, you're holding that inhale, and then you're exhaling for several seconds and holding it. And the reason it's such a powerful practice to have at work is you can do it without anybody realizing it. So if you're running from one meeting to the next, you're feeling overwhelmed, you're frustrated, you can literally do box breathing as you're walking from one side of the building to the other. And the reason it's so powerful is it's signaling to your brain that you're not being chased by a predator. You're not under threat. Because if you think about it, how do we breathe when we're under threat? We pant. We breathe really fast. Our body wants us to be able to run quickly. Box breathing undoes that damage and it helps our signal to our brain that we're in a safe place. And so we show up to the next meeting and we at least have some influence over how we show up, our presence, and our impact in that meeting. So those are 2 examples of some of the free tools that are there for you. Feel free to download them. I'm going to put a direct link in the show notes so you can take advantage of them. I hope that you enjoy the season as much as I've enjoyed interviewing all of these incredible experts. I know for a fact there's something for everyone in here. This isn't just for nursing leadership. This isn't just for executives. This is for anybody in a leadership role in the U.S. healthcare. Some other previews I want to give you guys are things like workshops and keynotes that are all new. You're welcome to check those out. I would love to bring this movement to you and your organization. If you are feeling like you're hearing any examples of yourself or your team in these episodes, please feel free to reach out. I would love to share this movement with you and your team. If this episode felt familiar to you, here's where to start. First, you need to follow the podcast so you don't miss what's coming this season. We're going to drop a new episode every week. Every episode is 30 minutes or less because we know how busy you are. And it's intended for you to be able to listen to it while you're on your commute to work so that by the time you get there, you've got super practical tips to help you stay sane while you're at work. If you're already thinking about your team, your leaders, your organizations, this is exactly the work we bring into healthcare systems through those keynotes and workshops. If your calendar is full, if your teams are stretched and things still feel harder than they should, that's usually the signal that it's time for a different way of working. You can head to my website to learn more about bringing it in. And if there's another leader in your world who might need to hear this, please send this episode their way. Because here's what I want you to leave with, dear healthcare leader. We are not meant to prove our worth through exhaustion. We are meant to ease human suffering, and that includes our own. So if no one's told you that lately, you are allowed to lead differently. We'll see you in the next episode. Thanks for joining us on the Chaos Whispers of Healthcare. If today's episode resonated with you, please be sure to follow this podcast, rate, and leave a review on your favorite platform. I'm Dr. Megan Carter, and I will be back next week with more real talk, fresh strategies, and guests who are redefining what it means to lead with impact. Want to keep the conversation going? Be sure to connect with me on LinkedIn and download free tools and resources from my website. Both links are in the show notes. Let's heal this broken healthcare system together, one day at a time.